Okay, thanks for joining. This is going to be episode 4. Okay, if you haven't seen episode 1, 2, and 3, you more than likely would be lost at this point trying to watch episode 4. Okay, so in the comment or the description, you'll see a playlist, and it's the 2020 low housing, how to get low income housing, and that's what you want to check out. Now, moving forward. So, back at the system operation manual, I think we left off on page 9. So, we're going to go on down. So we were last talking about assessment hubs, and I think I published a video today regarding hubs. There's HUD, and then there's the extension of that, and all hubs are an extension of it, or nonprofits that take up the cause of HUD by creating the COCs, continuum of care locations, where you can apply and get a wider range of services. Okay. The second thing I think we were discussing is housing assessors. These are the people that, when you go to that building, they're the people that are going to ask you all the questions, ask you, go over the policies, procedures, and everything that's going to be involved. Okay. Let me be clear about something that I tried to express in the last video about continuum of care. Yes, the process is no easier than you going to the DMV, the Social Security Office, the IRS, whatever. Anybody that's under the delusion that anything that you're going to do in life that's free is going to be easy. It does not have a real good grip on reality. Okay, so I've had, out of 1,000 comments, I think I've probably had 2 people that don't seem to have a firm grip on reality. So let me just reiterate that. Yes, if they start a line at 9, then you know what? You need to be there at 7. You need to be the first person. Okay, it just, things work a lot better. Show up early. Number 2, you're not the only person that has problems, okay? So other people in the line, including the lady with 10 screaming kids, the person that drank all night, the person that smoked crack all night, and the homeless guy. There's a little bit of everything. Uh, don't be under any disillusion that you going to HUD's going to change that. If you don't think those people have the same problems, they do, okay? So yeah, you do what you need to do in order to get what you need to get out of this system, okay? Just be fortunate to have the guide. Okay, let's press on. So that's what they call a housing assessor. They assess, okay? And the nice part about this is even if you get somebody that you don't like or they don't like you, maybe they're prejudiced, they're racist, or a bigot, whatever, it doesn't matter because these tests are designed where there's only basically 3 questions in there they can manipulate, okay? So even if they dislike you, they really cannot mess you up, all right? So you just have to put up with them, and if you really dislike them, come back another day, okay? You don't have to put yourself through that. At a later point, I will tell you how to report these people, get rid of them. Because, like I said, I don't understand why evil people would want to take up a position where they're dealing with the public and trying to help them. What converts a person from being normal to an asshole? All right. Next, housing navigators. These are the people you want to be ultra friendly with. Okay, they're a little bit higher up the scale, and what they're doing is, unlike when you go to HUD to get a voucher, it is your responsibility when you deal with HUD to go out and do what you need to do to find a place, get on a list, drive around, and all that. With a COC, the housing navigators take you everywhere, okay? They take you everywhere. They help you find everything. Things just go a little bit more natural and a little bit easier. And that's because COCs were originally designed for people that were homeless. So obviously, these people are not going to hop in their car. You know what I'm saying? So they had to come up with a way to deal with that. So that is a benefit of using the COC. Next, receiving program, all rapid rehousing, which is better known as RRH, or permanent supportive housing. We may have gone over this yesterday, but let's go back over it again. Rapid rehousing. So once you apply, once you score, once they determine what they're going to do what they need to do with you, within 24 to 48 hours, and in most cases, right while you're still sitting there, they'll tell you what their intent is. Basically, hey, you've got a shot or you don't have a shot. Number 2, within 7 days, they need to implement a plan, which means they need to tell you, hey, by the way, this is what we need from you, and this is where we're going to be going forward with the project, okay? You're an RRH or you're a PSH. Within 30 to 60 days, uh, you're either going to be getting your own place, in most cases, okay? Let's exclude places like New York, San Francisco, or LA, where the problems are at an epic level, and so I don't know, personally, in the system. The biggest city that I managed to survive and had to go through the system was Chicago. So I don't know in those cities. But you know what? What other option do you have? Okay. Go buy a lottery ticket if this is not if you can't be bothered with this. So, anyways, the rapid rehousing I've already explained just then what that was. Now, the permanent supportive housing, that is for people that score higher. That's all it simply is. If you've got more mental problems, more disabilities, whatever, then they put you in what they call permanent supportive housing, which could be a home with several people living there. It could be a building with separate apartments. It could be a home by itself. It could be an apartment by. It could be any kind of living situation you can imagine. Okay, and generally what they either have is on-site counselor or off-site where they just come and visit you occasionally. Okay, here's the key to PSH. They pay your rent, all of it. Okay, you don't pay for anything. They cover it all. And it is not a program that ends or terminates. It is permanent. It is forever till you take your last breath. All right. So if you're lucky enough to get that, then you are lucky. Now just remember, you're not so lucky because it is intrusive. So these people are going to want to interact with you in your life and all these different support services. They're not required. You're not required to, when you show up and you are an alcoholic, that they're going to require you to be not an alcoholic. Okay, I'm just saying that they're going to be, knocking and ringing your doorbell because they're going to want to help you. Okay, so if you end up getting that, be prepared to deal with that. Okay, so anyway, the housing program people, they go through a long list, and those lists update almost on an hourly basis. And when things pop up, you get 3 shots to pick something, and then you go with it. Okay. Sometimes the starting plan is not the end plan. In other words, they may call you and you get excited. Yeah, we got you a place. Well, the thing about it is sometimes it's just a motel for now. It doesn't mean that's the end of the support. It just means they're trying to get you in a place quickly. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for the more permanent place, they may want to do that. They may even ask you to go hang out in a drug rehab type facility or like a group home type deal until they can secure the second part of this deal, which may take a little bit longer. It could take weeks, could take months. Again, you do what you have to do. All right, beyond that, let's move on down. So yeah, you want to be housing, you want to be nice to your housing navigator. This is the guy or girl that's going to drive you around, help you get your deposits, help you get your paperwork together, and all that stuff. If you get a bad housing navigator, you're going to have to report it. But usually these are the less biased ones out of the two types of employees you'll deal with in these programs. Okay. Next up, let's see, authorized users. We don't need to learn about that. Target population. Well, that changes city to city, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, system overview and workflow. Let's take a look here. Connecting the coordinated access system, initial request for services, blah, 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 blah. Housing assessments. Sorry, we're having to skip through it. Okay, so after that, you get your housing match. Information is gathered from the assessment is used to determine which housing intervention is best suited to the end of the household. So in other words, it's going to choose the best option for you, okay? Now here's the sticky part. Depending on what they have available, sometimes you might be thrown in rapid rehousing even when you deserve permanent supportive housing. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it goes. You can convert back to PSH, whatever they have it available, okay? So they go through a process and look on a list like I already told you. Then you get to housing work. Once the recommendation for the intervention and eligible programs have been identified in the HMIS, which is the database that holds all the information about you, test scores, and all the other different places you go to get food stamps and other things. So after they look in there, they're going to see. So they'll put you in a centralized wait list. Okay, look, it's not like a normal wait list where you have 100 people on it. It just means that you're queued up with everybody else, and depending on your score will depend on how high you go up the queue. A lot of you guys have it in your mind that first person shows up to the door, just like you're in elementary school. The first person to get to the lunchroom gets to eat. Okay, stop thinking like a child. This is not a child's game. Okay, you know what? You've got people that wait a year, and then you can show up and outscore them and wait a day. Okay, so please stop with all the questions about the wait list. It's based on your score, not when you phone them, not when you show up at the door, but how well you score. All of these things that I've been going over with you is about how to raise your score, okay? Next up, housing navigation. After being referred to a housing provider, households will be connected with a housing navigator. And then from there, they'll pull from the central waiting list. And let's see what else. The outreach worker or designated coordinator. And go on and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, and they're going to reach a point where they're going to make sure you have all your paperwork. Look, guys, you want to be well prepared, make sure you have a driver's license that's current or an ID that's current, have a social security card that's legible. You can type in Google very easily if you want to get a income verification. It is not required. You think that homeless people have a printout of their income in their back pocket? They don't. Okay, so please don't send me insulting questions like that about, oh, well, they asked for that. Well, of course they did when you said that you have a title to your home. Okay, so please. Anyway, so driver's license, social security. If you have, if you don't, they're going to cut you checks to go get it for free. Okay, they'll even give you a bus pass to ride your butt down there. All right. The income verification is usually through food stamp office or a work location or eSNAP, something like that. You can Google it. Income work verification. You can pick one up for free. They're going to want an ID or a social security card, obviously. So if you have those three documents, you're well prepared. Okay. The next thing you can do is, for those of you that are a little bit braver, you can go down to any number of homeless shelters, walk in the front door, go to front reception if you can, and tell them I need a homeless letter. If you don't want to do it that way, type in Google homeless letter. Print the damn thing out and have somebody else sign it. Simple as that, okay? There's no national database of whether or not to authenticate homeless letters. I'm not telling you to be unethical, but I know that some of you guys are lazy, all right? Next up, so those four documents will help you right there. All right, anytime you've been to jail, so if you have any paperwork on that, anytime you've been to an ER, a doctor, a therapist, any of that stuff, get all that stuff, shove it in your purse, okay? Get ready to go down there. With all those things, then what you're going to do is you'll probably just accelerate the process by 7 days. If I were you, I wouldn't go in there, as I mentioned before in other videos, not too gung-ho. You know, maybe give over the ID, social security, stuff like that, and then wait a couple of days, go back and do that. Because if you look like you're too prepared, and especially if they know that you're reading the same freaking manuals that they're trained with, then that's where you might find you get the boot out the door. So you don't tell people that you have these guides. I just have a little common sense. One fellow, oh yeah, I printed it out and showed it to the lady. I don't understand why they threw me out the door. Well, of course they did. All right, next up. Um, Here's the workflow. I'm gonna have to increase the size for even me to see it. Okay, let's take a look at the workflow. So this is the workflow the worker is going to be doing for you. Household and individual are connected with the CA system through assessment hubs. Okay, so whatever, that's, you go on the computer, there's a list of housing to look at which housing options are open and whether or not they can stick your name on that list. So you have an apartment complex, they have 3 units open right now. And let me tell you, those things get snapped up quick. So when they log into that system, they're looking for anything that's open to get you, okay? Next up, CA housing assessors complete a housing assessment in HMS. In other words, they put the information in, okay, they type it in. Then they use, the HMIS uses the housing assessment information to determine the appropriate housing intervention. In other words, you get option A or you get option B. Either you're going to be rapid rehouse or you're going to be permanent supportive housing, okay? Next up, CA housing assessors discuss the housing matches identification, blah, blah, blah. In other words, they're going to give you an option, okay? If you get a real jerk, they could just tell you, they don't have to show you the screen. They could just give you the worst housing. So please don't go in there with an attitude because you might get housing with an attitude. You know what I'm saying? All right, next up, the last step in the fifth is one, A housing slots become available as a referral is generated in the HMIS. So in other words, you're in the queue, your score's real high, so that means you're at the top of the queue. Whatever pops in on an hourly basis will be what's available. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes. You might just show up the right time of day and then something's immediately available. The only thing is do you have everything that you need? I would love to give you a long list, but I don't know. Every city has a different amount of documents they're going to require, okay? And if you don't have them, they tell you what to go and get. So please don't tell me, oh, well, I brought the 4 things you said. Well, look, California's going to be different than New York, okay? But I can guarantee you, if they're dealing with homeless people, then they're not going to be asking for that many things, okay? Okay, next up, let's move on. Coordinated access policy and procedures. Locations and hours. As I've said before, I think in the video I posted later today, these COCs, if you're a big city, they may have 6 or 7. If you're a small city, just 1. If you're a mid-sized city like Atlanta, you're probably just going to have 2. If you need help finding a COC location, let me know. I can tell you right now, they're going to make you line up at the door, for 9 a.m. And if you're not there at 7, then get ready to wait, okay? Eligibility. This whole freaking deal is about being eligible. If you read what they're looking for, do you think you can produce paperwork to make yourself eligible? Okay? That's what it comes down to. So, okay. Oh, here comes the juicy part. And just let me check the time because there's a lot to learn about this. This is how you actually come up with your supporting documents. So let me just check the time real quick. Okay, we're at 15 minutes, so I think we're going to stop right here now. I apologize.